You're more clever than I gave you credit for. That trial period I mentioned, consider it complete. I think your team has a bright and long future with me.
In one of the most ruthless introductions the Power universe has ever seen, Ghost introduced one of the most cold-hearted characters that we've seen for a while. She's a badass queenpin, the guys fear her, and they should, because if they mess with her, they're gonna find out. She has no tolerance for nonsense, she doesn't play games, and when she comes in, she shakes up a lot of stuff. She restructures the whole thing that they have going on. So those were the words of Caroline Chikisi after we were introduced to her character as Noma after episode 1. And shake up their organization isn't the only thing she's done. She's put fear into each and every single one of them. She's only been in 2 episodes so far, but her presence has been felt throughout almost each episode of season 3. And we have to give credit to Caroline, who gave us a very dominant performance in episodes 1 and 5. But we also have to give huge credit to the writers, because they could have easily have made Noma a regular, but they've somehow managed to keep this aura around her character being no nonsense even when she's not around.
If Kane doesn't give Noma her money, she's coming after all of us.
So using her absence to increase respect and fear, which is law 16 from the 48 laws of power. Both presence and absence are 2 key concepts which, if used right, can put fear into your enemies as well as your soldiers. Now Noma knows when to turn up, and when she isn't around, her presence still remains strong. Again, a huge credit to Caroline and also the writers for the way they've written her character. Now during Noma's introduction and throughout season 3, they've given us a few pieces of the jigsaw in terms of a backstory and a character, but much of her background still remains a mystery. But one thing we have learned is her relationship with Obi could be problematic either in episodes 9 or 10, because they have been leaving breadcrumbs for a potential internal rift. So in the rest of this video, we're going to be looking at Noma's introduction, her backstory, but more so why Obi feels threatened by Tariq St. Patrick, and why this could lead to a problem between Noma and Obi towards the end of Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. During Noma's introduction, we learned the Blue Diamond Ring is what caught her attention, but that was only half the story for why she came back to New York, a story which we still haven't had the full answers to. Mecca was her first lieutenant, someone who used to move product and guns, as well as someone who used to snitch on her rivals. He was also Noma's fiancé, and she came back to New York not just to get the Blue Diamond Ring back, but also set up her operation and get answers around Mecca's death. Information which Tariq knows, by the way, and he holds a smoking gun with that level of intel. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to be looking more so at her relationship with Obi, and him being so against Noma working with Tariq St. Patrick and the Tejadas, as well as the implications. Now at every single turn, he looked down on the crew from his dialogue and facial expressions, while they were trying to convince Noma that they had people in law enforcement, the government, and people with influence. You could definitely tell from the jump, he wasn't buying it.
Let's give them a chance. They're like eager little puppies.
You're too generous.
As is my right.
Obi couldn't believe that Noma was giving these eager little puppies a chance, and he told Noma she was way too generous, but she said as is her right. And off the bat, you could tell these were 2 characters who aren't always on the same page when it comes to business decisions. But Noma's the shot caller, she's the one who runs the global empire, and she's the one who makes the decisions. Although it does have to be said, we don't know who Noma works for, if she works for anyone, if she's just one head from a larger organization working for someone bigger. There is a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to Noma's character, not to mention her mystery daughter, which I'm going to touch on a bit later on. Now, rewinding it back to Power for a moment, something we learned from one of the biggest snakes from Power was how easy it is to play between the boss and his right-hand man, if you stir the water. Dre was someone who was looking to climb the ranks and become the biggest goddamn drug dealer in New York City, but in his way of this distro position was Julio. Now what he did was he fed Tommy false information that Julio was talking to the feds longer than he was when they got pulled in for questioning. Now what this did was create a seed of doubt in Tommy's mind about Julio's intentions and whether he was a snitch. He was stirring up the water to catch a fish, which is law 39 from the 48 laws of power. If you can make your enemies angry, then you gain an advantage, rattle your enemies to put them off balance, and in turn, that puts you in a winning position. Now this is a principle which I've never used in any of my previous videos, so we're going to look at this in a bit more detail in just a moment, and how Tariq could potentially be stirring up the water between Obi and Noma. Now as I mentioned before, the clues are always there for us to see. Obi was just waiting for Tariq and the Tejadas just to mess things up, because he definitely wants to put a bullet in them, and he's actually waiting for them to fuck up. But during the early parts of season 3, business was booming for Tariq St. Patrick and the rest of the crew, and when it came around to the midway point of season 3 in Milan, Tariq's strategy to take out Francesco Lombardi put him in Noma's good books. Their trial period was now over, and Noma said they've got a bright long future together, which is ironically the complete opposite of what Effie and Tariq were talking about in Milan. They both wanted out of the game, and the last thing they needed was more work from Noma. But with Noma taking out her ex-husband, who also happened to be the father of their daughter, this was a warning shot for all of them, including Obi. Nobody is safe. And it's actually one of the themes of power. Nobody is safe in the world of power. But with Noma being impressed with Tariq's ability to think and orchestrate Francesco Lombardi's downfall, and the moment Noma said his trial period was over, Obi couldn't believe it. The look on his face said it all, and Tariq definitely noticed. Notice Tariq looking back and forth directly at Obi. So a showdown between Obi and Tariq is something that was brewing ever since the beginning, especially when Obi threatened Kane, Braden, Tariq, and Effie with a weakness, Grandma Estelle being Tariq's. And one thing you don't do is threaten someone Tariq loves, because we all know what lengths he's gone to before. So Tariq knew he had to get Grandma Estelle to safety, but the only way he could do that was by sending Obi a red herring. He knew after they were being followed to Milan, they were being closely watched by Obi and his crew at all times, and by having his men follow him, he was able to get Grandma Estelle to safety. But this conversation isn't about Grandma Estelle. We have to lay the foundation of Tariq's strategic moves for what followed.
I was going to make a drop with your fucking product that you just ruined. So I'll be sure to mention that to Noma when we're short at the next meetup, alright?
You won't say shit to Noma.
So Law 39, stirring up a water to catch a fish. Tariq knows exactly what he was doing during this strategic stunt he pulled. He got Grandma Estelle to safety, but he also fucked with Obi in the process, because he said he was going to make a drop with the product which Obi just ruined. So him not meeting Noma's profit targets was now on Obi. Now at this moment in time, Tariq is on a tight leash, and even though he's always facing issues from his personal life to business, Tariq's someone who wants his freedom. In seasons 1 and 2, when he was working with Monet, he was still able to operate with some level of freedom, and he was able to tell Monet that she can't do this without him. But with Obi, he knows he can't. He always seems to be breathing down his neck at every single turn, and he's looking around. He's got Obi's men around him. They have eyes and ears on them jumping on a private jet to Milan, and they have their eyes on their family and loved ones. So Tariq knew he had to do something to get him off his back. Now playing between the lines of Obi and Noma is certainly one way to do that, similar to how Dre once stirred the water with Julio and Tommy to take the distro position. Tariq knows what he's doing with Obi, so I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if we see Tariq using this to his advantage and just further stirring the pot between Obi and Noma, because there is some underlying tension. Now there's also the question about Noma's daughter, and does Obi know? Could he let something slip? Because other than the picture which could have been taken years ago, they don't know what Noma's daughter could look like, how old she is, or where on earth she is. She could be in London, she could be in America, God knows where she could be. And this is one of the storylines which I don't think is going to conclude in season 3. This is one of those which I think will rumble on into season 4, but they definitely need some intel from somewhere or someone, because at this moment in time they're just going by a picture, and that's not enough. So could Obi play a part if Tariq's there in the water? But that's a breakdown of the story between Noma and Obi so far, and how there seems to be some underlying tension which pretty much is evident from episode 1. Obi's never been on board with her decision to bring on Tariq St. Patrick and the rest of the crew, and I definitely feels he feels threatened by his presence, especially because Noma's taken a liking to Tariq St. Patrick. So is this something that could play a part either in episodes 9 or 10? Could Tariq play in between Noma and Obi, and is he stirring the water? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and of course if you are new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Book 2 Ghost and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.